What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on D's Analysis. We're going to be checking out MSTR and Bitcoin today. So we have pierced this key support level. We found a bounce off of it, but we did break through this 323 mark. And like I said, we found rejection to the upside, so that's a good sign. But at the same time, we did surpass this wick right here, which was our local low all the way since April 21st of this year. So it does look like we are forming a major double top. We'll see if it plays out. It already is kind of playing out, really. As you can see, it is just a double top with a higher high, though. As you can see that right there, pretty obvious, that upward sloping area right there. But now that we have surpassed that wick, that has compromised this structure. So we'll see how the week finishes. We still have 17 hours left. There could be a lot of volatility as we have unemployment in the morning, and depending on how that comes out, that could shake the market up a little bit. If we surprise positively or negatively, expect a lot of volatility. And price could end up in the same position, but volatility in terms of just swinging, because we could swing all the way down, for instance, to 310 and then swing back to 340 or something if we get crazy volatility. If it's kind of in line with expectations, then it's probably just going to be a sideways day. Obviously varying, off of whatever Bitcoin does. But you can see that rejection more here on the daily. We pushed all the way down to 317 and wicked all the way back up, which is a good sign. But what happens when we go to retest this? Now, I do wonder if we're going to actually wick fill, because that's always a possibility where we push up, it's a green candle, it's like a solid green candle, and then as it pushes down, it turns red, and then we get the body to the downside to fill that wick. We could see something like that, and then if that were to happen, then we probably more than likely see a continuation through that structure. So we'll be watching for that wick fill tomorrow, and honestly even the next upcoming weeks, because nothing has to happen tomorrow. Also be aware of the inclusion. We'll see if that happens. S&P can be a little tight on who they include, so we'll see if MSTR makes it in. But that's also another contributing factor as to what could, determine where price goes. On the weekly SMA, that 50 is acting as a very strong level of resistance. If we get a weekly close underneath 325, that's more than likely going to increase our odds of falling through the structure. Of course, we'll see. And as we approach this structure, if that were to happen, and we get a close here, then we could see lower levels for MSTR. Hopefully not. Hopefully this thing can swing back above and close back above the 50. And that also brings me back to this bear flag that I was speaking of. Just be aware of it. Of course, it doesn't have to play out. But as we, see these little signs like closing underneath this wick here at 325, and then closing underneath this structure, this is going to start to increase the odds of this bear flag playing out. Here on the daily, SMAs, the 20 is about to surpass the 200. It's getting very, very close. I would imagine by the end of next week, it's going to have a cross. Granted, they are lagging indicators, but if we get a severe drop, like a rapid drop, for instance, tomorrow or sometime next week, then I would expect that cross to fully play out. And on the 4 hour, the 20 is just kind of in that key level of resistance that we touch and we continue on down. Ever since over here, really, we just kind of just push down, bounce off of it, we surpass it, fall back through, retest again and again. And that's kind of just been holding the trend intact on the 4 hour, as you can see, all the way since July 18th. The 4 hour 20 SMA has been holding that downward sloping trend, the same way that it was kind of holding the upward sloping trend prior to that. Now, if we were to take a look at global liquidity, you can see that this thing is still starting to ramp back up, And we're getting closer and closer to breaking that line here, and potentially seeing fresh highs, which would be nice for Bitcoin, a nice extended move. We'll see if MSTR can continue to. We'll see if MSTR continues doing what it's doing, or if it starts to follow Bitcoin a little bit tighter in the upcoming months and weeks. On the 8-week EMA, it looks like we tried to push up, but there wasn't even enough bulls or I guess bullish momentum to even take us up to the 8-week EMA, and we just started to fall off again. We pushed up to 347, and that was pretty much it. On the daily, we did make it back to the EMA, and then we pushed down further. So we'll see if we can get another retest of this, and if it were to continue the trend and it continues as resistance, or if we can break back above it and reclaim it and get a short-term rally as we've seen prior, like over here. Because these really just show you those short-term moves from maybe a month or a couple of weeks. So that's kind of how we use those EMAs. The volume has been relatively flat for the most part. It's been anywhere around 8 to 10 million. We'll see if Friday brings a little bit more volatility, whether it's to the upside or downside. I would expect a little bit more volume for the day, maybe 50% more. Maybe we hit 15 million, maybe even 20 million, depending on how aggressive the move is. Depends on how Bitcoin's moving, inclusion, unemployment rate, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of it's more than likely going to happen in pre-market, because the unemployment rate is going to be the bigger factor, in my opinion. And that could honestly, like I said, it can just trade sideways if it comes in line. So be aware of that. Bitcoin's starting to trend higher, starting a short-term rally here. Take a look there. You can see that. Connect those bottoms. We are coming into contact with that upward sloping trend line, and it's actually creating an ascending triangle. You can see that. There you got your ascending triangle, and that usually signals higher prices. Of course, it doesn't have to play out, but ascending triangles typically do push up higher. We just have to break this wick here, and of course this key structure here. But once we surpass this wick at 113.4, we'd more than likely see a little bit of upside to this structure over here at about 115. We have clean candles all the way up to really 117, but I'm still taking into account this structure that's been established here for a while now. But overall, Bitcoin's looking pretty good. Like when you zoom out on a larger time frame, nothing much has really changed. We haven't had a severe drop. Bitcoin has seen way larger drops in the middle of the bull cycle. So, I mean, even when you take January into consideration, you look at that drop, it was a 32% drop, and then we still made fresh highs off of that. So this drop has been absolutely nothing when you think about Bitcoin and the type of volatility that it typically sees. Just a 13% drop. So that's Mickey Mouse compared to the other drops that we've seen on Bitcoin, and compared to the drop that we're more than likely going to see in 26 or 27 or something like that, if the 4-year cycles continue to play out how they have been over the past couple cycles. And you can see even on the 3-month, we're still in a solid position. You can see we've had 2 solid candles up. We go sideways for 2. We had 1 up, sideways for 1 up. So we'll see if we can start to get some green candles back to back. It seems like we could potentially be shortening the sideways chop as we increase to the upside. You can see it was 2, 2, now 1. Maybe we trend sideways for 1, and then the next one's a green one, or maybe this ends up being a green candle as well. We'll see. Of course, they're 3-month candles, so this is a lot of time for each candle. We still have 25 days here, so we can see if this is a green candle. If we can close above this dotted line, that would be incredibly bullish. This last 3-month candle was incredibly bullish. As you can see, you had this wicking action from 108 all the way down to 94K, and then this candle closed at 107. So That was a very, very bullish candle. Hopefully we can see something similar, and then we can continue this trend higher. And hopefully we can hit this midline one last time. If you zoom in, we haven't really touched it, but when you look on the 3-month chart, it kind of looks like we have. That's where I could potentially see our top. And if we get the altcoin craze and FOMO that we're hoping for, then we make it to the top of the channel and we see crazy valuations on Bitcoin. When we look at the dollar, it looks incredibly bearish on this time frame. It looks very, very bearish, especially after getting a red engulfing candle. We wicked off of this area, pushing down further. You have this key structure in this channel that's been established from 08 that we've been respecting pretty well. So it's hard for me to see us break out of it, but if we do, it'd probably be short-lived. But you kind of have that conflicting idea right now where this is really bearish. This whole thing is super bearish. This is honestly a bear flag when you look at it. You can take it from that structure there, and it's already played out pretty much. Now, if we make it out of the structure, I don't know, because you have this bearish momentum, but you have this upward sloping trend line that's been respected from 17 years ago. I definitely think the dollar could be getting ready to see higher targets, which would indicate some kind of weakness potentially for Bitcoin long term. And long term, I mean like for 2026 or 2027, and then of course we continue up in 28, 29 or something along those lines. So be aware of that. MSTR divided by IBIT. This is the second red candle that we've had in the history of it. Granted, it's only been since January 2024, but even this red candle here was a bullish red candle. So this is really the only bearish candle that we've really seen this entire time. But we still have 25 days left. We'll see if we can get some, sort of bounce. Right now, it's just incredibly bearish the last 3 months, and on the weekly, potentially, we got pretty close to breaking the structure here. We made it down to 512, and this wick is at 511. So if we lose those, if we lose a structure and these wicks over here, we could potentially fall down even further to this next structure, sitting at 4.65 to around 455. So hopefully we don't see it, but be ready for something along those lines. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe. Check out the Discord in the bio, and I'll see you guys in the next one.